Reclaiming Timeless Ways, another episode getting underway, 76. We're in the
76.
final quarter of our first 100, Mike.
Wow, that's amazing.
Down the stretch we go. Mike Traster, Simon Fuller, and you. Thank you for joining us. And what's going to be our 76th show, Mike?
Putting yourself back together,
Oofta.
or self-repair.
Self-repair, putting yourself like Humpty Dumpty.
Yeah, big wall, soft-boiled
Big
egg.
wall, big fall.
Big ball, big fall, hard floor, soft-boiled egg.
Right.
So,
Well, where's this going to take us? I feel like that's kind of a really wide.
it
There
is.
could be a lot of directions we go with that.
Right. I remember a phrase. I was in a sales course. I'm not sure how much it helped me, but the guy said there's this phrase. What did he say? Well, it was, if you convince somebody against their will, they remain an unbeliever still. Was
Okay.
part of it. So you can't persuade too much. But there was this other thing. If you persuade too much, people feel trapped, and they get into what's called buyer's remorse.
Sure.
And then they rebound out of it. And I don't know, I guess there's different laws about when you can get out of a contract, like for a car or something.
Sure.
But there was this other thing, and he said it was 3 words. And you know these 3 words very
Okay.
well. Feel, felt, and found.
Okay.
And it's not, I know exactly how you feel. It's, I think I know how you feel basically. You don't ever know exactly how somebody feels.
Right.
Right? And the minute you say that, you're offending them.
Right.
So if you say, I've been through a terrible loss, so we have that in common. However, I don't know, your internal experience or your history.
Sure.
So, but I can share with you how I've experienced it. That's feel and felt, how I felt. And this is, this is not what magically made it all better, like Tinkerbell came with her magic wand and
Yeah.
went bling,
Yeah.
right? It's not that. That's
Right.
bullshit.
Right.
Right? What it is my favorite phrase, little steps.
Right.
Little steps. And so I think I told the story when I was a kid, and I was in my uncle's car. We were going upstate New York.
Sure.
It was a big car, like a station wagon. And then we come around this turn, and off in the distance, you see this little green mound. And you get busy. I'm talking to my cousin, looking sideways, distracted. And all of a sudden, I look out the window, and there's a mountain. And I think it was maybe the first time I'd ever seen one like that.
Sure.
And it was huge. It took up the whole windshield and part of the side windows, and it was like, this looks like it goes on for eternity. And we got bigger and bigger and bigger, and it was like, imagine you're 2 and going into the middle of New York City, and you have to look up so high you feel like you're going to fall over backwards.
Right.
To see like the Empire State Building.
Sure.
Right? And so when you experience a loss or an injury or an illness, it's like seeing that mountain, but it's not a beautiful green mountain.
Right.
It's a horrible mountain. Right?
Right.
You lost a spouse or a good friend.
Like,
or you-
how am I going to climb that?
Right. Yeah. Or is there a valley I can kind of get through and
Right.
climb less, And so I've been through it with a friend this last year and a few months, lost a buddy from high school. He was a chronic smoker.
Yeah.
And he, brilliant guy, real down to earth, real sharp, straight shooter. But he loved his cigarettes.
Yeah.
And they were not on the list of approved topics,
Yeah.
So
Right.
it was basically, I
If-
ain't talking about it.
Right.
Shut the F up, And you want to say, yeah, but you're important to me, and I don't want to see you hit the wall at 70 when you could hit 90.
Right.
You got 20 years that your family wants to share with you, right?
Yeah.
You're sick, but you're strong. Maybe you can be okay. So anyway, I was thinking about a couple of injuries I had, and then those two severe car wrecks.
Yeah.
I was rear-ended by a drunk that was going like 40 miles an hour or so when I was stopped. And so my brain and my skull hit each other. And they say when the brain and the skull fight, the skull always wins. 100% of the time. So I fell in the 100% range. And, you know, there was times when I couldn't remember my son's name.
Yeah.
And it was horrifying.
Yeah.
Right? It was absolutely horrifying. And I was also embarrassed. But more than that, I also felt like I was betraying him. Like,
Yeah.
Daddy, don't you know my name? He's 2 years old when I got hurt. After about a year and a half or 2 years of that, some of that started, there was two wrecks, 11 months apart.
Oof.
Now, the first wreck, there was two distinct impacts. So I had two traumatic brain injuries in the first wreck, about 100th of a second apart. And then the third one, I got hit head on a country road by
Jeez.
some woman that was a county employee and a druggie. And she's just distracted. She hits me head on. And I was so out of it, I didn't realize she had a kid in the car with her from the impact. I was so out of it. She had a kid, she came completely across my lane, hit me head on. She had a smaller car, I had a 65 Ford Galaxy station wagon. So my car looked more intact than it was. But her kid was not strapped in, his head hit the windshield. And I didn't see him, I was so hurt from the impact, which had just exacerbated the first two injuries.
Right.
So I walked about a block away, and she's kind of wiggling around, being seductive and telling me my car looked fine. Our bumpers were locked together, you know, and I'm like, no, lady, we're gonna call for some help. So the fire department comes, they call the police. They are evaluating the kid. The windshield is deformed because he hit it with his forehead. And that's, you know, it took me a good minute to realize he was standing there.
Yeah.
I was out. I was conscious, but only half
Yeah.
present.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of damage, a lot of cognitive damage, all of which has improved, but none of which has gone away,
Sure.
okay? And that's 34 years. So one of the things I did was, I took it very seriously, but I also made a joke out of it at times. So I would, if I couldn't recall a name, like lately I haven't been able to remember Darwin, right? Because I've been writing things on the internet making fun of Darwin. And like I see a lion make friends with a dog. And I just would put that picture down and write, Darwin can't explain this, right? And I've posted 50, maybe 100 things like that to just get people thinking,
Right.
right? But when I couldn't remember a word, somebody's name, I would make a joke out of it. I was serious about it and it bothered me. But I would also call it, well, this is just called name that word,
Yeah.
right? So like a quiz show.
Yeah.
And so I lightened it up a little bit. That's different than denial.
Right.
Denial is pretending, oh, it's fine, I don't care. I cared deeply. But, you know, so I went out, I was in a store, plant store called Northwest Seed and Pet. It was in Spokane, and I remember standing there looking at a rack of seeds, and the next thing I know, I'm on the floor. My balance and my awareness of where I am in space was toast,
Huh.
right? So I crashed and burned and took over a little vertical rack with some seeds on it. They come rushing over and they're nervous. They think I'm going to sue them. And I'm like, I'm okay, but it's like the room is tumbling. And I got myself up slowly and I said, it's okay, I'm not hurt, it's not your fault, I'm not going to sue you. Are you sure you're okay? Meaning, are you sure you're not going to sue us? No. So I went to the doc and he gave me some meclizine, which is for nausea and dizziness. Well, it's also sedating. So I'm like, I don't want this shit. I think I threw it in the toilet and flushed it. And I remembered reading that ginger was good. So I went over to Fred Meyer's and I bought some sugared ginger and started nibbling on it. And lo and behold, I would say I got about 30%, 25, 30% improvement from nibbling on ginger. And the reason why it works is because it improves microcirculation. So the part of the ear that has to do with managing balance is its blood supply is small vessels.
Okay.
So they're more easily blocked or undersupplied, especially after travel.
Right.
So the ginger helped, and then I decided, well, you know, for the last 10 or 20 years, I've wanted to learn Tai Chi. So I did, and I've practiced it for 34 years since then. So I would say, conservatively, I'm 50% improved,
Sure.
right? But it's like 10, 20 minutes a day for 34 years, which is better than falling down and turning over racks in a store, right?
Right.
So I did that. I was really beat up. Every part of my body. My eyes had blood vessels that burst. So I have all these little dots that float all over my visual field called floaters.
Yeah.
Right? So I read some stuff. There, I don't have as many as I did, but I still see some. And if you turn your head this way, the floaters will go the direction you turn.
Sure.
Right? Have you ever had one?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. By the way, now in the battle to become restored, right, I read about everything. And I usually read a page at a time. And I might read it twice or look at a video, might look at it 2 or 3 times because my recall is not as efficient as it was. It was off the scales. I was very blessed. So, pineapple.
Love pineapple.
Pineapple is great for floaters. It breaks them up. And the reason why is pineapple contains a digestive enzyme called bromelain. And bromelain helps break up the little tiny microscopic blood particles in your visual field. So they did a study over in Taiwan. There was some ophthalmologists, and they were looking at this. I'm not sure why. Maybe they were wondering about the bromelain, because it's also useful for breaking up allergens in the blood to reduce allergic reactions. Same thing, it's a digestive enzyme, right? So they did this research for, I don't know what the anecdote was, or if it was an anecdote or if it was just knowledge that it had a scientific benefit. Let's see how it works. Does it have any effect at all? Then they tried it, and I think they found, like, if you had like an ounce or 2 a day for like 2 weeks, there was something like a 50 or 60% improvement. It's crazy,
Yeah.
right? So that's one thing. So the Tai Chi and the ginger helped my balance. My sleep was a disaster. I took a very, very infrequently, I took a homeopathic remedy, but I only took about 1/10 of what they recommended because I respond very strongly to things. And it was called CALMS, CALMS Forte, and it helped. So that was, you know, turning off the lights in the room, so you don't even have a night light on. The little tiny bits of light that leak into the room is called ambient light. So the less of that you have, the better you sleep.
Sure.
If your blood sugar gets low, you wake up. So if you have something like milk, it tends to help keep your blood sugar more stable for more of the night. Also background noise. So you want to get rid of that. Some people will use a mask. I think I tried it once, I hated it.
I can't do the math.
Yeah, the mask is like, my survival instinct says, no, this is between me and having to instantly know something.
Right.
Right? So that was out. But the other thing is adapting emotionally,
Yeah.
right? So like when I was going to mention about the bromelain and the protein, for a moment, I didn't have access to that memory conversationally. I thought about it, and then I got distracted or tracked, and then I lost it for a moment. So when you have that happen, in life or with a brain trauma, it happens more. You naturally feel embarrassed and then you panic,
Yeah.
right? So if you look at that and you go, well, I'll remember it, and you let it go, it comes back, let's say 20% easier, right? Not 100%,
Right.
20%. We'll be conservative. Maybe it's 25 or 30. So I did that just now, 3 minutes ago, right? And the result is it congealed on my visual and intellectual screen,
Yeah.
right? Associations, if you have like comedic associations are helpful,
Yeah, I would agree.
right? Okay. You probably have a story of your own,
It's just, I feel like anytime there's something serious going on,
right?
that's just, like you said, a way to lighten it.
Right.
And there's even a fine line there is, you know, to not make too light, or, you know, so you have to understand your audience, because some will take offense to that.
Oh, absolutely.
I just had a friend who's been in some, you know, serious health condition and is on the road to recovery, but, you know, when I come in and first see him in that traumatic, say, hooked up to machines, tubes, everything else,
Right.
you know, the first thing I want to do is talk about fun stories about that individual and kind of have a little laugh, because
Right.
I don't like the dampening mood
Right.
of sitting there looking
Right.
at that now. Not to offend anybody, but that's certainly a way I would deal with serious topics,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. My thing, and you've heard me say it, even mentioned it a few minutes ago, little steps.
Yeah,
See, because big steps will burn you out, and they'll take up too much time, too much energy, too much money, and too much emotional energy, and they will injure you.
yeah, and we by nature will take the path of least resistance. There are no critters that don't. I mean, that's just innately in all of us, the path of least resistance. So so in the example of a therapy, we're talking about a friend, when you put so much on yourself that you shouldn't say can't, we can, but almost don't have the capacity.
You're breaking yourself slowly.
Correct. And eventually you'll say, heck with this. I mean,
Right.
what's the positive payoff for doing this?
Right.
Well, I don't know, but boy, the journey's no fun, so I'm not gonna find out.
Right.
I'm burnt out, I'm fed up.
So my
too
my
hard.
slow journey, since this COVID bullshit magically went away, they'll bring it back for the next election, of course, because they're criminal scum. But since it went away temporarily, it's on the shelf and it's next, or a new one, you know. I didn't go to the gym for a few years. I did some basic stuff at home, but not as intense,
Yeah.
because I don't have the equipment, right? So I lost maybe 25-30% of what I had gained.
Yeah,
But so I'm slowly crawling back. I've been at it, 6 months maybe. And like yesterday, I'll be 73 this summer. I was doing my hammer curls with 60 pounds. I think before COVID, I was up to 70.
yeah,
And I've been doing a set of 20 curls with 45s,
yeah,
right? And other things. I'd mentioned to you my bench, which is 178, but 70 reps.
right,
But I build up very slowly. I
Right.
might add 2 pounds every 1 or 2 weeks,
right,
right? Which is nothing, but it's not nothing.
right,
It's never nothing, it's something. And you say, well, those are like pissant small. Pissant small adds up,
right,
and then it's not pissant,
right.
you know? And so,
So in any journey of self-repair, I mean, it's the same philosophy just applied to your situation.
right, Right.
Whether it's mental, whether it's physical, whether it's emotional, whatever it is.
absolutely. Absolutely, you get divorced. The love of your life tells you one day by an email that you're a pile of shit, not you, someone,
Yeah.
and that you have 24 hours to vacate the premises with the help of the sheriff, and you're like, but I was happy, and you're not happy anymore,
Yeah.
because that was the source of your, that was the well you drew your water from,
Yeah.
right? So, 2 things. Number one, don't draw all your water from one well, ever. Just don't, because it's crazy, because things happen,
Yeah,
right? And, have some gratitude for a whole lot of what is your wholeness. if somebody makes me whole, I'm in trouble.
Yeah,
You know, if somebody adds to me, that's phenomenal.
right.
But if they make me whole, that means I'm nothing. I have defined myself as being nothing. I've committed a crime against myself,
Yeah.
right? So I have to go back to the root of how I define myself and go, that's like crazy stupid. You know, that's a mythology.
Yeah.
It's like the Hollywood love story. I was nothing and nobody, and then you came along, and now I can walk 100 feet up off the ground. You make me whole. You make me happy. You make me complete. I'd be dead without you. And you're like, no, 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 no. You're cursing yourself.
Yeah.
You know? You're like almost like the demonic messenger to one's own self. And it's like, seriously, I'm not like overstating this. This is how dangerous it is. But our mythologies are that powerful,
Yeah.
you know? So, you know, it's like if you buy an old car and you only have $10 a week and the car has rust on it. So you get some sandpaper, you take the rust off. Maybe you buy a used rivet gun and you find some old sheet metal and you put some sheet metal where there was a rusted panel, you know. Then you put some Bondo on it and you learn how to straighten that out. And it's only little bits, but it adds up.
Yeah.
Adds up, same thing. And over time, I was talking to this guy one day and I said, picture somebody that got so badly broken that they can't lift this, right?
Yeah.
This is too much. So you start off with a half a pound, right? And that's it. They can lift a half a pound. And every 2 weeks, if we're working 2 or 3 days a week, they can add a half a pound. And they get furious. They're terrified. See, they're looking down this black tunnel and all they see is a half a pound. They feel hopeless and shame. So you tell them, if you add a half a pound every 2 weeks, that's a pound a month, that's 12 pounds in a year, instead of 1 pound. In 4 years, it's 48 pounds.
Right.
Right? Is that nothing? How many people in the gym can one hand curl 48 pounds?
Right.
Not maybe half, maybe, right? And they didn't go through a meat grinder, right? How about in 5 years?
Yeah.
Ooh, 60 pounds. That's crazy,
Yeah.
you know? So can that happen emotionally? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right. Is Tinkerbell going to come along and go, twang, you're all magically fixed?
No.
It won't happen. It's a total lie. It's like the crooked preacher that comes on the TV and he says, well, I have this vision of this woman. Her name is Mary. You got $10 in that cookie jar. The Lord is telling you to send it to me for my work. Bullshit.
Yeah.
That's not real. He's a thief and a liar, right? And guess who he works for, right? So the little promises, those are real promises. You know, you get back a little peace of mind, maybe a little bit of financial restoration, a little bit of physical strength, maybe your immunity improves, and you keep learning. You have to keep learning. You have to remain quietly focused. The other thing is, like, do you remember there was a musical Robert Morse was in it? I think it was called The Music Man.
Okay.
Okay? Remember that? He was a fake music teacher, right?
That could be me.
Yes, it would only be me. But he was pretending to be something. But the whole idea, so he was a con man. He was very charming. And in the end, he was exposed. And then the kids tooted out 3 or 4 notes, so he was kind of saved by the kids. But he was still a fraud, you know. So all those messages about new, unique, better, revolutionary, it's all lies. And what they will do is they will break your hope when you need it the most. So don't listen to them. Listen with scrutiny and think, Well, okay, there's a very high percentage of chance that these are liars.
Yeah.
Right? Uh, Now, does that mean that there's no such thing as good news? No. What it means is that gets in the way of the real good news,
Yeah.
which is small, consistent, little tiny steps that add up, you know? And you could maybe make a metaphor of building a house. Let's say you're real sick and all busted up, and you can lay down 20 bricks with a little bit of cement in a day. And then you're hurting like hell and you're tired. So you got two people talking to your head, in your head. One is going, 20 is nothing, it's dog shit. And the other one is going, why bother, right? 20 garbage, why bother? The other one is going, it's 140 bricks in a week, right? That's like, how many in a month? It's 4 1/3 weeks, right? So it's 560 plus, 40 or thereabouts?
Yeah, and how many bricks to build a house?
600, I don't know, a couple thousand, right? So maybe in the summer, you got a one-story little cabin built, right? And it's like, but wait a minute, that's only 20 effing bricks a day. That's dog shit.
Or you can say, that's only 20 bricks a day. Wow, I can do that.
Yes.
You know, it's a flip of the script is all that is.
Yeah.
You can tell yourself, that's not worth it, or, wow, that's easy. And that's your point of patience and taking little steps is, we all can take a little step.
Yeah, we damn well can.
We can.
We can.
At whatever we choose to do or need that to be, we can take that step. We've got to value that step.
Right. So everything I do, every time I do research about traumatic brain injuries, which I do once or twice a week for 10 minutes, because really I don't want to immerse myself in it. It's not joyous,
Right.
but I want to find something useful, right? So one of the things that it says is a lot of folks that experience that always are tired.
Yeah.
They always need way more sleep. Oh, guess what? I need more sleep, a lot more, maybe 3 or 4 hours more than pre-rec. 34 years later, still, right? If I don't get it, I'm marginally useless. Now, I can shame myself, and I can let other people shame me. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps, that's bullshit. Or I could say, this is what I need.
Yeah.
It's like, should you shame somebody because they need insulin?
Right.
So your sleep is, in that case, that's your insulin, you know, or digitalis for heart failure or whatever it is, a drug that counteracts excessive clotting, right? So you're on Coumadin, so you don't clot and wind up with heart attacks and strokes.
Right.
So there's no shame in that.
No.
There's frustration. I can say I'm frustrated as all bleep for needing it, but that's different. But I'm also glad that I have it.
Right.
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 And I may have to adjust the dose a little bit, maybe because I bruise too easily or whatever. So sleep is like that. But when I read that, it's like I have a choice. I could say, yeah, look at you, you're a weak son of a bitch. Or I can say, okay, there's an affirmation that this is normal. This is normal response to an abnormal situation.
Right.
Right? So, now lately I've been reading about, what is it? Lion's mane. Did I tell you about it?
I can't
It's a
remember.
mushroom. So,
My wife's talked about it, so maybe that's where I've heard it.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, so like 30 years ago, I think somebody just was talking about stem cells. And they said, well, they're in the body, but we don't think they do much. Well, now they're saying they get switched on and off by food, by supplements, and by thought. Thought? Yeah. So apparently, lion's mane is good for switching on the stem cell productivity for brain cells. And it even switches on the part of the brain that has to do with higher thinking, which I think is called the hippocampus. And I'm not you know.
I've heard that word, but I'm not gonna either
Right.
credit or discredit that, because I don't know.
Right, anyway.
Sounds right, sounds
I
good.
think that's the word, but I'm not, you know, I never studied neuroanatomy, but I think that's the right word.
There's your next assignment, Mike.
Maybe, yeah. Well, actually, I've been putting that one off or pondering it for a long time. So lion's mane, is it worth looking at? I think so.
Yeah,
You know, I really do. Am I saying use it? No. I'm saying read about it and then talk to your doc or your pharmacist or your nurse practitioner or, you know, whatever practitioner you go to. And what else are they saying? Crucifers. Cruciferous vegetables like Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, and broccoli. Now, I'm working to recall those names. So I want you to see the inner workings of my mental process. Those took some effort to state, right? So those are 3 crucifers. They seem to help, I think, switch on that process, and they also help to stabilize the end caps on your DNA, which can help you live longer,
okay.
okay? Because those end caps, the name of which has slipped my mind, I'll remember it at some point. But those end caps stabilize the DNA strands, and when time and pollution and stress, what have you, affects them, they start shrinking, right? So that helps to apparently not only protect them, but possibly rebuild them, which is amazing. So you have DNA that's getting a tiny bit more broken and shorter with the caps, and then can reverse. So they're talking, there was an article I read once. Now this is, you might say this is a segue, but without segues, we don't get anywhere. We don't make associative connections. So our conversations become worthless.
Right.
Right? So it was an article I was reading in a veterinary magazine. It was about a cow. And they took the cow and they made a surgical incision on one of his knees. And they surgically injured the cartilage in the knee. And then they closed it up. They took a picture of it so you could see where there was a structural impairment, right? And they started to supplement the cow with glucosamine.
Okay.
Then they took another scope, so they did a little scope, right? In small incision, a scope. 6 months or a year later, the thing is repairing itself. Does glucosamine work? Apparently, you know. So what is all of this? It's like, if you say, you know what, I hate that this shit happened to me, that's real. I'm not happy about it, that's real. I don't have to be miserable 120% of the time. I can even joke about it, but not deny it.
Yeah.
Right? But I should be motivated to learn one little stinking freaking thing at a time, because those little stinking freaking things
They add up.
Exactly.
It's sometimes a person can hate a cliche statement, but I mean, there's a few of them that just have come to mind throughout. Patience being a virtue, sort of tying into this, and I know that's a cliche statement, but so true. And little things do add up, Mike. And at the end of the day, that's been the theme of this. A lot of little stories, a lot of little, like you said, segues, but it all kind of summarizes back to that. Something is not nothing.
Right. Now, I remember on the other side of not doing too much, you don't want to fix yourself by breaking yourself.
Correct.
Right? So I was in a gym in, I think it was St. Helens, Oregon, and I got up to on a hammer strength machine, I got up to 402 or 3 pound bench press. And I could do it. It was a lot of work. I could only do 1 or 2 reps, and I don't remember which. But it didn't feel like it was within my natural structural capacity. So my muscles in the joint, which is cartilage, ligament, tendon, and muscle and bone, right? The muscles could handle it, but everything else felt like it was being pushed past its natural limit.
Yeah.
So I dropped it back quite a bit. I think I dropped it back to like 280, Then I was repping 280. I finally decided, I feel really happy at like 230.
Yeah.
So at that point, I was doing like 30 reps, if I remember right, with 230. Now, no more trauma to my joints, right? So do more, but if you do what's the French pointillist artist? He used to paint with dots. His name was Seurat, S-E-U-R-A-T. So if you get real close, all you see is a fog of dots, right? And there's a famous picture of a guy, I think he's standing by the Seine River in Paris. He's got a hat on, he's looking over the river, if I remember right, and there's like a bunch of people having picnics. So when you get real close, it's just this fog of dots, but when you stand back, you see this gorgeous picture. You don't see dots, right? It's the same thing, they all add up, right? And I think, so you have to have a fighting spirit.
Yeah.
But don't beat yourself up. You've already been beat up by an injury or an illness or a betrayal or whatever it is.
Your final cliche as we wrap up, Mike, it's not what happens to you that defines you, it's what you do next.
Right. And be
that's
kind
true.
with yourself about how you define yourself.
Yep.
Yeah. So now my signature move.
Self-repair. Episode 76. We hope you enjoyed it. We took some winds and curves,
We did.
but hopefully you found the value in that and some validation in the core theme, and that is, again,
And by the way, the preparation I did for that was 34 years.
at least,
Yeah.
and counting.
And counting.
Mike Traster, Simon Fuller, glad to have you along with us for Reclaiming Timeless Ways. Until next time, we wish you a great day.